name is Joan Stack, and I am the curator of art collections at the State Historical Society of Missouri in Columbia. Well, we are here to open an exciting exhibit where we celebrate two of Missouri's greatest cultural heroes. Mark Twain, the great author of the 19th century who made Missouri the subject matter of some of his most famous works, and Thomas Hart Benton, a great Missouri artist of the 20th century who again made Missouri the subject matter for a lot of his greatest works. The exhibit is called Mark Twain and Tom Benton, Pictures, Prose, and Song. And we are examining the links between these two artists. We have a number of different types of things in the exhibit. We have images of Mark Twain and images of Tom Benton, Tom Benton's self-portraits, for example, and several portraits of Twain. It's kind of interesting to see the different points of view, the images created when Twain was still alive and images that were created after his death. We also have a number of first edition novels, the great Missouri novels, the Adventures of Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And so you can have a look at what those looked like when they first came out. So that's kind of exciting. Another interesting little side note, we follow a little bit the career of Thomas Hart Benton and his relationship with music, including a record album he put out Saturday night at Tom Benton's, and we have that album out for people to see. So it's kind of fun to explore these different sides of these artists. But perhaps the highlight of the exhibit is the collaboration between the two, the melding of the two artists when limited edition clubs in the 1930s and 40s commissioned Thomas Hart Benton to illustrate three of Mark Twain's novels, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and Life on the Mississippi. So we put together this exhibit and also to showcase this great collection that we have at the Historical Society of those original drawings that Thomas Hart Benton made to illustrate those Twain novels. And we received those in 1966 directly from Thomas Hart Benton, who wanted them to stay together. And he felt that there was no better place for these illustrations for this great Missouri author than the State Historical Society of Missouri. So we received over 200 of these original drawings. We have a lot of illustrations from Tom Sawyer, not quite so many from the other two books, but some great ones, some great watercolor drawings from Life on the Mississippi, some beautiful sepia drawings from Huckleberry Finn, and pen and ink drawings from Tom Sawyer. And I think people will really enjoy Benton's take on Mark Twain. Benton is a 20th century artist, and he's taking this 19th century material and illustrating it in a way that was a little bit different from the way the illustrators approached the problem in the 19th century. If you look at those 19th century first editions that you'll see, the illustrations are very old-fashioned, very, very, very detailed, beautiful wood engravings. Well, what Thomas Hart Benton does is much freer looking. They're much more, perhaps reminiscent even of cartoon drawings. And I think what Benton was trying to capture was Mark Twain's fluidity in his writing, that spontaneity, that feeling when you're reading Mark Twain that you're listening to people talking. And I think Benton wanted to capture that quality in a way a little bit different than those 19th century illustrators. Make it look like Benton had just quickly drawn these off-the-cuff drawings capturing the spirit of Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn, but in fact they're very carefully planned out. These drawings appear very spontaneous, they appear very easily and simply drawn, but in fact when you study them, the compositions are very complex, and Benton spent some real time on planning them, but made it look easy.
Again, can you explain how Benton came to illustrate the editions of Twain?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Limited Editions Club was a book publisher that decided to devote a series of classic books, classic literature by all kinds of authors. They thought it would be interesting to find 20th century artists to illustrate these works, these classic works of literature. So they went to all kinds of famous artists. They went to Henri Matisse to illustrate James Joyce's Ulysses, and they went to Pablo Picasso, and they went to a number of different artists. But for Twain, the natural choice was Thomas Hart Benton because of his Missouri connections. They didn't know what he was going to do, and when you see this artwork, it doesn't exactly look like his paintings. You're familiar with that great Benton style, and you can see it somewhat, but there's a spontaneity, an ease to these pictures that is even more kind of fluid and simple and easy than those great paintings we're so familiar with. So I think he came up with a very original solution, and I think they were very pleased. I think it was a really exciting collaboration.
What did Thomas Hart Benton and Mark Twain, in terms of their inspiration, have in common?
Well, I think, again, it's this idea that Missouri and the common people of Missouri are their inspiration, at least for those great novels of Mark Twain, for which he is most famous, and for not everything that Benton did, but a lot of his great works are works in which he went to the people of Missouri for his subject matter. In fact, you may have heard of the regionalists and the whole idea behind regionalism, which was the style of art that Thomas Hart Benton is most often associated with, was not to represent the movers and the shakers, the famous people of the community, but the everyday person, the working person, life in an area that usually isn't represented by the highfalutin artists, the everyday person. And if you think back to what Twain's subject matter is, at least in Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, it's that same kind of character. These are not the political movers and shakers. These are the everyday people, but Benton finds universal truths in their lives. And that, I think, is what Twain and Benton sort of have in common in the way they're approaching subject matter, using Missouri. And what I love, too, is the way they use our landscape. The Missouri landscape, the river, is very important in the essence of who we are as Missourians, and both of those artists use it, and I think you see that in these pictures, how the Missouri landscape, its lushness, its fertility, its beauty is a real inspiration to both painter and author. Well, you have to see both of them as bucking the society's trends by insisting that they were going to go to Missouri for their subject matter, because that would not have been the most popular subject matter of the day. People would not expect you to get great things by writing about Missouri or painting Missouri. But both of them had the genius to see that they could find real inspiration, real universal truths in their lives here and in this state and in its landscape and its people. So I think, yes, they're both bucking the trends. Of course, Benton leaves New York. He's not happy with the way things are going in the art world in New York, comes to Missouri, makes Missouri his subject matter. Twain is a little bit different. I wonder if it's more nostalgia when he returns to Missouri for his subject matter. But I think everybody was a little surprised that he was able to produce such great books with that as his subject matter, when he was also doing all kinds of other things, the Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court and all sorts of things where Missouri had nothing to do with the subjects. But his greatest work, arguably, is that Missouri material. I'm hoping people would get a feel for Benton as an artist and his complexity. And of course, he's from Kansas City, so much loved in the community, or he lived in Kansas City for some time. And of course, everybody loves Twain. So I think it's really a fun show to get to know both artists a little bit better through the links between them. So it allows us to see them both in a slightly more complex way.